The acquisition offer landed on my desk at 7:30 a.m. on a rainy Thursday morning. $19 million for the tech company I built from nothing. My hands trembled as I read the number twice, then 3 times. But the celebration died in my throat when my phone buzzed with a text from my estranged business partner, Marcus. Saw the news. Remember our original agreement? I'm calling my lawyer. You owe me half of everything. The same Marcus who had abandoned me with $450,000 in crushing debt 3 years ago. My name is Chauncey, and 3 years ago I thought I understood what betrayal meant. I was wrong. Marcus Westfield and I had been roommates at Ohio State University studying computer science together. He was everything I wasn't. Tall, confident, with a smile that could charm investors, and a handshake that sealed deals. I was the quiet one, the guy who stayed up until 4 a.m. perfecting code, while Marcus networked at fraternity parties and startup meetups. When we graduated in 2019, Marcus pitched the idea of starting our own software development company, Next Gen Solutions. He called it Complete with a sleek logo he'd commissioned from a graphic designer friend. The concept was brilliant. A revolutionary customer relationship management platform that could predict client behavior using advanced algorithms I'd developed for my senior thesis. Marcus handled the business side while I built the technology. Within 6 months, we'd secured our first major contract with Cleveland Manufacturing Consortium, a group of mid-sized factories looking to modernize their customer outreach. The deal was worth $300,000 over 2 years, enough to keep us afloat while we developed our platform. Everything seemed perfect until the night Marcus knocked on my apartment door, looking pale and carrying a stack of legal documents. "Chauncey, we need to talk," he said, stepping into my cramped studio apartment near campus. "The lawyers need some signatures to finalize our corporate structure." I trusted him completely. Why wouldn't I? We'd been friends for 4 years, partners for 6 months. Marcus spread the papers across my small dining table, pointing to highlighted signature lines. "Standard partnership stuff," he explained quickly. "Incorporation papers, tax elections, liability protections." My dad's corporate lawyer drew everything up pro bono. I should have read every word. I should have asked questions. Instead, I signed where he pointed, focused more on debugging a particularly stubborn piece of code I'd been wrestling with all day. 6 weeks later, Cleveland Manufacturing Consortium filed for bankruptcy, citing industry-wide supply chain disruptions. Our $300,000 contract evaporated overnight. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came when creditors started calling my personal phone number. "Chauncey Martinez, this is Rebecca Johnson from Midwest Business Lending. You're personally liable for Next Gen Solutions' outstanding debt of $137,000. "That's impossible," I told her. "The company borrowed that money, not me. According to the personal guarantee you signed, you accepted full responsibility for all corporate debts." My blood turned to ice. What personal guarantee? That evening, I drove to Marcus's apartment complex, but the leasing office informed me he'd moved out 2 days earlier, leaving no forwarding address. His phone went straight to voicemail. His social media accounts disappeared. Over the next 3 weeks, more creditors emerged: equipment financing companies, software license providers, office rental agreements, legal fees from incorporation. Every single debt had my signature on a personal guarantee documents I remembered signing, but hadn't understood. The total came to $453,847. My credit score plummeted from 720 to 435 in 30 days. My landlord served eviction papers when my bank account was frozen. Student loan companies demanded immediate payment. Credit card companies canceled my accounts. I hired a bankruptcy attorney named David Chen with the last $2,000 in my savings account. After reviewing the documents, he delivered the crushing news. "Marcus structured everything perfectly," David explained in his downtown Columbus office. "He used a legal entity called a Series Limited Liability Company that protected his personal assets while exposing yours. Every signature you made created personal liability while shielding him completely. Bankruptcy might help, but these debts will follow you for years. I called Marcus's parents' house in suburban Toledo. His mother, Patricia, answered the phone. "Oh, Chauncey, how lovely to hear from you. Marcus is doing wonderfully in Seattle. He landed a position with Amazon's Emerging Technologies division. Such an exciting opportunity." "Mrs. Westfield, did Marcus tell you about our company? About what happened?" "He mentioned the partnership didn't work out. These things happen, dear. I'm sure you'll bounce back." She had no idea her son had destroyed my life. That night, sitting in my empty apartment with eviction papers scattered across the floor, I realized Marcus hadn't just abandoned our partnership. He deliberately engineered my financial ruin, using our friendship as a weapon against me. The rain outside my window matched the tears on my face as I called my mother. "Mom, I need to come home." Moving back into my childhood bedroom at 23 felt like admitting defeat, but my mother, Sarah Martinez, embraced me without judgment. Her small two-bedroom house in Cleveland's Tremont neighborhood hadn't changed since my high school graduation. Same floral wallpaper, same creaky hardwood floors, same photographs of my late father on the mantelpiece. "Mijo, sometimes we need to step backward to move forward," she told me on my first morning home, serving scrambled eggs and coffee in the kitchen where she'd packed my school lunches for 12 years. Mom had taught 4th grade at Lincoln Elementary for 28 years before retiring. Dad had passed away from a heart attack when I was 16, leaving her with a modest teacher's pension and a mortgage she'd been steadily paying down. Now at 55, she welcomed her financially ruined son home without hesitation. "I'm going to pay you back every penny," I promised her. "Pay me back for being your mother, don't insult me." But I felt the weight of my failure every day. Mom worked part-time at a local tutoring center to supplement her pension, and I watched her count coupons before grocery shopping, calculating every purchase. My presence stretched her already tight budget, and guilt gnawed at me constantly. I found work immediately. 3 part-time jobs that together barely covered my debt payments and modest contributions to household expenses. Monday through Wednesday, I stocked shelves at a 24-hour grocery store from midnight to 8 a.m. Thursday and Friday evenings, I delivered pizzas for Tony's Italian Kitchen. Weekends, I provided tech support at Best Buy, helping elderly customers set up smartphones and troubleshoot laptop problems. The work was exhausting, but it gave me time to think. During quiet grocery store shifts, my mind raced with ideas. Software problems I wanted to solve, algorithms I could improve, business models that might actually work. More importantly, I began to understand exactly how Marcus had betrayed me. Late one night while restocking cereal boxes, I realized his entire plan had been premeditated. The legal structure he'd created wasn't standard partnership documentation. It was a sophisticated scheme designed to transfer all risk to me, while preserving his ability to walk away clean. His father's corporate lawyer hadn't been doing us a favor. They'd been setting a trap. Marcus had never intended to build a lasting business. He'd planned to extract what value he could, then disappear when things got difficult, leaving me holding all responsibility. This realization sparked something dangerous inside me: determination. If Marcus could manipulate legal structures and business relationships to destroy me, I could learn to do the same thing, but ethically. I could build something better than next-gen solutions ever would have been. 6 months after moving home, I began developing new software in Mom's basement during my spare time. Not customer relationship management this time, something completely different, something that would revolutionize how businesses understood their customers' behavior patterns. I called it Data Vault. The core innovation came to me during a particularly boring midnight shift at the grocery store. I was watching the automated inventory system track product movements, thinking about how inefficient the process was. Computers could count items, but they couldn't predict which products customers would want tomorrow based on weather, social media trends, economic indicators, or seasonal patterns. What if they could? I spent 18 months building artificial intelligence algorithms that could analyze dozens of data streams simultaneously: weather forecasts, social media sentiment, economic reports, demographic trends, competitor pricing, and predict customer behavior with unprecedented accuracy. Not just what customers bought, but when they'd buy it, how much they'd spend, and what would make them switch to competitors. The breakthrough came on a December night when Cleveland got hit with an unexpected snowstorm. I was debugging code in the basement while Mom slept upstairs when I realized my algorithms had correctly predicted the storm's impact on grocery purchasing patterns 3 days before meteorologists confirmed the weather change. My software had analyzed social media posts about winter preparation heating, fuel price fluctuations, and historical data about Cleveland snowfall patterns. It had identified the storm before traditional forecasting and accurately predicted which products would see increased demand. I tested the system obsessively, feeding it historical data and comparing predictions against known outcomes. Month after month, Data Vault's accuracy rates improved. By 18 months, it was predicting customer behavior correctly 87% of the time, far better than anything available commercially. But I had a problem. Some of Data Vault's foundational algorithms were based on work I'd originally developed for next-gen solutions. I'd assumed that intellectual property belonged to me since Marcus had abandoned the company, leaving it legally defunct. The code had been sitting unused on my personal laptop, so I incorporated those algorithms into Data Vault's architecture. It felt like reclaiming something that had been stolen from me. Working 4 hours of sleep per night, I refined Data Vault into a commercial product. I built user interfaces, created demonstration presentations, and developed pricing models. Most importantly, I learned everything Marcus had failed to teach me about running a business properly. I incorporated Data Vault Analytics as a Delaware corporation with proper legal protections and clear ownership structures. I opened business bank accounts, obtained insurance coverage, and filed all required regulatory paperwork. Never again would I sign documents I didn't understand or trust someone else to handle critical business decisions. 20 months after moving back home, I was ready to find my first client. The breakthrough came through Mom's connections. Her former principal, Carol Williams, had become superintendent of Cleveland Public Schools and was struggling with budget allocation decisions. Which schools needed additional resources? How could they predict enrollment changes? Where should they focus improvement efforts? I offered to analyze their historical data for free, demonstrating Data Vault's capabilities. Within 2 weeks, my software identified patterns that surprised district administrators. Data Vault predicted which schools would see enrollment increases, which neighborhoods would generate higher special education needs, and how transportation costs would change based on demographic shifts. Carol was impressed enough to recommend me to her brother-in-law, who managed operations for a regional grocery chain. That led to my first paid contract, $25,000 to analyze customer shopping patterns across 12 stores. Data Vault's predictions were so accurate that the grocery chain extended the contract and referred me to 3 other companies. Word spread through Cleveland's business community about the young programmer who could predict customer behavior with almost supernatural accuracy. By the end of my second year home, I'd earned enough to move into my own apartment, hire 2 part-time developers, and pay Mom back every penny I'd cost her. More importantly, I'd proven to myself that I could build something valuable without relying on charismatic partners or shortcuts. But I was about to learn that my past with Marcus wasn't as buried as I'd believed. Moving Data Vault Analytics from my mother's basement to a professional office space in downtown Chicago felt surreal. The 25th floor corner suite overlooked Lake Michigan, with floor-to-ceiling windows that made me dizzy with vertigo and pride in equal measure. 2.5 years had passed since those dark nights of stocking shelves and debugging code. Now I employed 14 brilliant people, including software architects from Google and Microsoft, who joined Data Vault because they believed in our mission of democratizing predictive analytics. My lead developer, Jessica Park, had left a six-figure position at Facebook to build our machine learning infrastructure. Marketing director Brian Walsh came from a successful Chicago startup that Salesforce had acquired. Operations manager Lauren Davis brought 15 years of experience scaling technology companies from concept to IPO. Data Vault's client roster read like a Fortune 500 directory. Walmart used our software to optimize inventory distribution across 4,000 stores. Boeing relied on our algorithms to predict maintenance needs for their aircraft fleet. Target Corporation had seen a 12% increase in customer satisfaction after implementing our recommendation engine. The transformation felt miraculous, but it had required every ounce of determination I possessed. After that initial success with Cleveland Public Schools and the regional grocery chain, I'd made a crucial decision. I would relocate to Chicago and pursue enterprise clients aggressively. Mom supported the move, understanding that Data Vault's growth potential required a larger market. "You're ready, mijo," she said, helping me pack boxes in her living room. "Your father would be so proud of what you've built." Chicago's business ecosystem embraced Data Vault immediately. The city's combination of traditional corporations and innovative startups provided the perfect testing ground for our technology. Within 6 months, I'd signed contracts with 3 major retailers and 2 manufacturing companies. The breakthrough came when Data Vault correctly predicted a supply chain disruption that would have cost one client $18 million. Our algorithms detected subtle changes in supplier communication patterns, shipping delays, and vendor payment schedules that human analysts had missed. The client was able to switch suppliers 2 weeks before their original vendor filed for bankruptcy. Word spread rapidly through corporate procurement networks. Companies began viewing Data Vault not as a nice-to-have analytics tool, but as essential infrastructure for risk management and competitive advantage. Revenue growth was exponential. Year 1, $300,000. Year 2, $2.4 million. Year 3, $8.7 million, with projections suggesting we'd hit $15 million in year 4. I moved from a studio apartment to a luxury condo in Lincoln Park. I bought Mom a new Toyota Camry and paid off her mortgage, despite her protests. I established a college scholarship fund at Ohio State for students studying artificial intelligence. More satisfying than financial success was the knowledge that Data Vault was genuinely helping businesses make better decisions. Small companies could compete with industry giants by leveraging our predictive capabilities. Nonprofits optimized their fundraising strategies. Hospitals improved patient care by anticipating resource needs. The technology Marcus and I had originally envisioned for next-gen solutions had evolved into something far more powerful and beneficial. But success also brought visibility, and visibility brought unwanted attention. The first sign of trouble appeared on a Tuesday morning in March, when my executive assistant Angela Rodriguez knocked on my office door with an unusual expression. "Chauncey, there's a man in reception asking to see you. He says he's an old business partner, but he doesn't have an appointment. Should I call security?" My stomach dropped before my brain processed the information. "What's his name?" "Marcus Westfield." The blood drained from my face. 3 years had passed since Marcus abandoned me, with crippling debt disappeared to Seattle, and left me to rebuild my life from scratch. 3 years during which I'd checked his LinkedIn profile obsessively, wondering if he'd ever return to claim credit for Data Vault's success. Now he stood in my reception area wearing an expensive charcoal gray suit and carrying a leather briefcase that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Behind him stood a sharp-dressed woman with silver hair and predatory eyes holding a tablet and legal documents. "Chauncey," Marcus called out as I entered the reception area, extending his hand as if we were old friends meeting for lunch. "You look fantastic. Success suits you." I didn't shake his hand. "What do you want, Marcus?" His smile never wavered. "We need to talk. Privately." This is Patricia Wells, my forensic accountant. We've been following DataVault's progress with great interest. Patricia Wells stepped forward, her voice crisp and professional. Mr. Martinez, we represent the interests of NextGen Solutions LLC, which maintains certain intellectual property rights relevant to your current business operations. My conference room had never felt smaller than it did that afternoon with Marcus and Patricia Wells spreading documents across the mahogany table I'd purchased to celebrate DataVault's first $1 million contract. "I'll be direct," Marcus said, his charm replaced by cold calculation. DataVault's core algorithms infringe on intellectual property developed during our NextGen Solutions partnership. My legal team has conducted extensive analysis of your software architecture. Patricia Wells activated her tablet, displaying side-by-side code comparisons that made my heart race with panic. "These algorithmic structures," she continued, pointing to highlighted sections, "demonstrate clear derivation from work originally created collaboratively. While you've enhanced and expanded the codebase significantly, the foundational elements remain legally protected intellectual property." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying my reaction. "I never abandoned NextGen Solutions, Chauncey. I dissolved the operational company to avoid debt obligations, but I maintained legal ownership of all intellectual property through a holding company structure." He slid a thick document across the table. "Our original partnership agreement contains a clause requiring shared ownership of any future ventures utilizing our collaborative work. Since DataVault incorporates foundational algorithms from our next-gen development, I'm entitled to 50% ownership of your company." I read the clause 3 times, my hands shaking. The legal language was complex, but the meaning was clear. Any software I developed using intellectual property from our original partnership would be subject to shared ownership, regardless of how much additional work I'd contributed. "You planned this?" I whispered. Marcus shrugged. "I plan to protect my interests. You've done excellent work building DataVault, Chauncey. I'm genuinely impressed. But business is business." Patricia Wells consulted her tablet. "Based on current market valuations and revenue projections, we estimate DataVault's worth at approximately $22 million. We're prepared to accept a settlement of $11 million payable within 90 days. The room spun around me. $11 million would bankrupt DataVault, destroy everything I'd built, and leave my employees without jobs. It would prove that Marcus had been right to betray me, that I was too naive and trusting to succeed in business. "I need time to review this with my attorneys," I managed to say. "Of course," Marcus replied, standing and straightening his jacket. "But don't take too long. We've heard rumors about acquisition interest from some major players. It would be unfortunate if legal complications delayed or derailed such opportunities." My blood froze. The acquisition rumors were accurate. Meridian Industries, a tech conglomerate based in Austin, had been conducting preliminary due diligence for 3 weeks. Their preliminary offer suggested a valuation around $19 million, enough to secure DataVault's future and provide substantial returns for our early investors. Marcus knew about the acquisition talks. As they gathered their documents, Marcus paused at the conference room door. "For what it's worth, Chauncey, I always believed you'd build something successful. I just wanted to make sure I'd benefit when you did." After they left, I sat alone in the conference room for 2 hours, staring at Lake Michigan and wondering how everything had gone wrong so quickly. But this time, I wasn't the naive 23-year-old who'd trusted Marcus blindly. I was a successful entrepreneur who'd learned to fight for what I'd built. Marcus wanted a war. He was about to get one. Jennifer Rodriguez arrived at DataVault's offices the next morning with 3 associates and enough legal documents to fill my conference room table twice over. As one of Chicago's most respected corporate attorneys, Jennifer specialized in intellectual property disputes and had successfully defended dozens of tech companies against frivolous claims. "Tell me everything," she said, settling into the chair across from me. "Start from the beginning and don't leave out any details." For 3 hours, I walked Jennifer through the entire Marcus saga. our college partnership, the deliberate debt transfer, his disappearance, and my years of rebuilding. She took notes on a yellow legal pad, occasionally asking pointed questions about specific contracts and timeline details. Marcus is sophisticated, she concluded. This wasn't opportunistic greed. It was a long-term strategy. He deliberately structured your original partnership to create future leverage, then waited until you'd built something valuable to cash in. Jennifer's analysis of the Next Gen Solutions partnership agreement was sobering. Marcus's father's corporate lawyer had indeed crafted a brilliant trap. The intellectual property clause was enforceable, and DataVault's algorithms did trace back to work I'd originally developed during our partnership. However, Jennifer continued, there are several potential defenses. First, the partnership agreement may be void due to Marcus's fraudulent conduct. Second, his abandonment of the intellectual property for 3 years could constitute a form of legal abandonment. Third, the vast majority of DataVault's value comes from your independent work after the partnership ended. She recommended bringing in a forensic accountant to analyze DataVault's code architecture and value creation timeline. We need to prove that while some foundational elements came from NextGen, the real innovation and commercial success resulted from your independent efforts. If we can demonstrate that 90% of DataVault's value stems from post-partnership work, we can limit Marcus's claims significantly. I hired Tom Bradley, a private investigator Jennifer recommended to research Marcus's activities over the past 3 years. If Marcus had been planning this legal ambush, there might be evidence of coordination or preparation that could undermine his claims. Meanwhile, Patricia Wells escalated the pressure campaign. She sent formal demand letters to DataVault's major clients threatening legal action if they continued using infringing software. 3 clients immediately suspended their contracts pending resolution of the intellectual property dispute. Walmart's procurement director called me personally. Chauncey, we love working with DataVault, but we can't risk legal complications with our vendor relationships. Until this gets resolved, we're pausing all new projects and reviewing our existing contracts. Boeing followed suit the next day, as did Target Corporation. Revenue projections collapsed overnight. Cash flow turned negative. I had to delay employee bonuses and freeze hiring plans. Worse, Meridian Industries postponed their acquisition discussions indefinitely. We love DataVault's technology, and Team Sikuwal explained their business development director during a conference call. But we can't proceed while there are unresolved intellectual property claims. Legal cleanup could take months or years. Marcus was systematically destroying everything I'd built, just as he'd done with Next Gen Solutions. But Tom Bradley's investigation began uncovering disturbing information about Marcus's background and activities. Your former partner has been busier than you might expect, Tom reported during our first meeting at his downtown office. He didn't spend 3 years hiding in Seattle. He's been actively involved in multiple business ventures, including several that failed under suspicious circumstances. Tom spread photographs and documents across his desk: corporate filings, bank records, lawsuit papers, and surveillance photos. Marcus joined Amazon for 18 months, then left to start a consulting company called Strategic Partnerships LLC. The company marketed itself as specialists in intellectual property monetization and partnership restructuring. Translation: they help people extract money from old business relationships. My hands clenched involuntarily. Strategic Partnerships worked with 12 clients over 2 years. 8 of those clients were involved in legal disputes with former business partners. 7 of those disputes resulted in profitable settlements. Tom showed me newspaper articles about several cases. Marcus had helped a former restaurant partner claim ownership of a successful food truck business. He'd assisted a programmer in demanding royalties from a mobile app his ex-roommate had developed. In each case, Marcus's company had identified overlooked contractual clauses or intellectual property claims that generated substantial settlements. Marcus turned betraying former partners into a business model, I realized. It gets worse, Tom continued. Strategic Partnerships has been monitoring your company's growth for at least 18 months. They purchased industry reports about Data Vault, tracked your hiring announcements, and even had Patricia Wells attend your presentation at last year's Chicago Tech Summit. He showed me credit card records indicating Marcus had flown to Chicago multiple times over the past year, staying at hotels near Data Vault's offices. He's been stalking my company and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The timing of his legal demand wasn't coincidental. He knew about Meridian Industries' acquisition interest before you did. Tom's most shocking discovery came from analyzing Strategic Partnerships' financial records. The company had received payments from shell corporations linked to several of Marcus's target's competitors. Marcus wasn't just extracting settlements from former partners, Tom explained. He was being paid by their competitors to disrupt successful businesses through legal warfare. It's corporate sabotage disguised as intellectual property enforcement. Jennifer Rodriguez was furious when I shared Tom's findings. Marcus isn't just committing partnership fraud, he's running a conspiracy to manipulate legal systems for profit. This changes our entire defense strategy. We immediately filed counterclaims alleging fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. Jennifer demanded full financial disclosure of Strategic Partnerships LLC and all related entities. Marcus's response was swift and vicious. He amended his original lawsuit claiming Data Vault owed him not just 50% ownership, but also damages for unauthorized commercial exploitation of his intellectual property dating back to our company's founding. The new demand totaled $16.7 million, enough to bankrupt Data Vault completely. He's trying to destroy us before we can expose his scheme, Jennifer warned. Our legal team worked around the clock preparing for the preliminary injunction hearing that would determine Data Vault's immediate fate. If Marcus obtained an injunction preventing us from using the allegedly infringing algorithms, our software would be commercially worthless. The night before the hearing, I sat in my condo overlooking Lake Michigan, reviewing 3 years of financial records and legal documents. Data Vault employed 17 people who trusted me to protect their livelihoods. We served dozens of clients who depended on our software for critical business decisions. Everything would be destroyed if Marcus succeeded. But Tom Bradley's investigation had revealed something even more disturbing than Marcus's systematic betrayal of former partners. There were financial connections linking Strategic Partnerships to several major corporations, including 2 companies that competed directly with Data Vault's clients. Marcus hadn't just been planning to steal half my company, he'd been hired to destroy it entirely. The preliminary hearing would determine not just Data Vault's survival, but whether justice could prevail against a sophisticated conspiracy designed to manipulate legal systems for corporate sabotage. I called Mom that night, needing to hear her voice before the battle began. "Mijo, you fought harder battles than this," she reminded me. "Remember when you came home with nothing and built something beautiful? You'll do it again if you have to." But this time I didn't intend to rebuild from nothing. This time I intended to win. The Cook County Courthouse felt like a battleground as I arrived with Jennifer Rodriguez and her legal team for the preliminary injunction hearing. Marcus sat at the opposing counsel table with 3 attorneys from a prestigious downtown firm looking confident and relaxed. Patricia Wells occupied the gallery behind them tablet, ready to provide technical testimony about Data Vault's alleged intellectual property infringements. Judge Margaret Chen presided over the hearing, with the efficiency of someone who'd seen countless technology disputes. After reviewing both sides' preliminary arguments, she ordered a 30-day discovery period before making her injunction decision. Both parties will have full access to relevant corporate documents, source code, and financial records, Judge Chen announced. "I want complete transparency about the intellectual property claims and the business relationships at issue." Marcus's confident smile wavered slightly. Jennifer had warned him that our counterclaims would trigger broad discovery requirements, but he'd probably assumed we lacked the resources to conduct thorough investigation. He was wrong. Jennifer immediately hired a team of forensic accountants, computer analysts, and corporate investigators. Tom Bradley expanded his research into Strategic Partnerships LLC and its network of shell companies. Most importantly, we subpoenaed Marcus's personal and business communications over the past 5 years. What we discovered exceeded our worst suspicions. Marcus's email archives revealed a systematic pattern of targeting successful entrepreneurs with complex partnership histories. Strategic Partnerships maintained a database of promising startups and their founding teams identifying potential intellectual property disputes that could be monetized. But DataVault had been different from Marcus's other targets. DataVault had been personal. Tom Bradley found email exchanges between Marcus and his father's corporate lawyer, dating back to our original Next Gen Solutions partnership. The intellectual property clause hadn't been standard legal protection. It had been specifically crafted to give Marcus future leverage over any company I might build. They planned this before you even graduated college, Tom explained during a late-night strategy session. Marcus identified you as a valuable long-term asset and structured your partnership to ensure he could profit from your future success. Even more damaging was evidence linking Strategic Partnerships to corporate espionage activities. Marcus had hired private investigators to monitor several former partners, including surveillance of their offices, interception of their communications, and infiltration of their business networks. DataVault had been under surveillance for 2 years. Jennifer's forensic accountants discovered that Strategic Partnerships had received over $3 million from shell companies controlled by Apex Analytics, DataVault's primary competitor. Apex had been paying Marcus to disrupt our business relationships and delay our growth trajectory. This isn't just partnership fraud, Jennifer told me. It's commercial espionage and conspiracy to restrain trade. Marcus has been working as a corporate spy while claiming to represent legitimate intellectual property interests. Our most devastating discovery came from analyzing Marcus's communications with Patricia Wells. Her forensic analysis of DataVault's algorithms had been prepared months before Marcus contacted us, using illegally obtained source code samples that Apex Analytics had acquired through corporate espionage. Patricia Wells wasn't an independent expert. She was part of Marcus's conspiracy. But while we were building our case against Marcus, he was escalating his attacks on DataVault's business operations. Strategic Partnerships filed intellectual property complaints with DataVault's hosting providers claiming our software violated federal copyright laws. 3 major cloud computing companies suspended our accounts, forcing emergency migrations that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and caused service disruptions for our clients. Marcus also filed complaints with the Better Business Bureau, the Illinois Attorney General's Office, and industry trade associations claiming DataVault was operating fraudulently and harming customers through stolen intellectual property. Our reputation was being systematically destroyed. 2 more major clients canceled their contracts. Employee morale plummeted as news coverage portrayed DataVault as a company built on stolen technology. Recruiting became impossible. Who wanted to join a startup facing potential bankruptcy? Most frustrating was how effectively Marcus manipulated media coverage. His public relations firm distributed press releases describing him as a victim of intellectual property theft, seeking fair compensation for stolen innovations. Technology blogs picked up the story, portraying our legal dispute as a cautionary tale about partnership agreements and startup ethics. I became the villain in my own success story. Jennifer filed emergency motions seeking sanctions against Marcus for abuse of legal process. But court hearings moved slowly while Marcus's public relations campaign continued damaging DataVault's reputation. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Tom Bradley had been investigating Apex Analytics' corporate structure when he discovered something remarkable. Apex's parent company, Global Technology Ventures, was owned by a consortium of investors that included Marcus's uncle Robert Westfield. Robert Westfield sat on the board of directors of Cleveland Manufacturing Consortium, the same company that had defaulted on Next Gen Solutions' original contract, triggering the debt crisis that destroyed my credit and forced me to move back home. The bankruptcy wasn't random, Tom explained. Marcus's family orchestrated the default to collapse next-gen solutions at the precise moment when you were most vulnerable to personal liability. Financial records confirmed the conspiracy. Cleveland Manufacturing Consortium had been financially stable when they signed our contract. Robert Westfield had engineered their bankruptcy filing to coincide with NextGen's most critical cash flow period, ensuring maximum damage to my personal finances while protecting Marcus's assets. Marcus hadn't just betrayed our partnership, he'd destroyed our original company as part of a coordinated family scheme to control my future business activities. "They've been manipulating your life for 5 years," Jennifer said quietly. "Every setback, every financial crisis, every obstacle you've overcome, it was all orchestrated by Marcus and his family. But we finally had evidence of criminal conspiracy spanning multiple years and involving dozens of participants." Jennifer immediately contacted federal prosecutors, presenting evidence of wire fraud, racketeering, and commercial espionage. The FBI opened a formal investigation into Strategic Partnerships LLC and its network of corporate clients. Marcus's response was predictable. He accelerated his timeline, demanding immediate settlement negotiations and threatening to seek criminal charges against me for intellectual property theft. But his leverage was evaporating rapidly. Judge Chen scheduled a final hearing for the following week, warning both parties that she expected resolution of all outstanding issues. As I prepared for what would likely be the most important legal battle of my life, Tom Bradley delivered one final piece of evidence that would change everything. Marcus had made a critical mistake. In his arrogance and confidence, he'd recorded conversations with me during NextGen Solutions' collapse, believing those recordings would provide additional leverage in future legal disputes. But Marcus had also recorded conversations with his co-conspirators, including discussions about manipulating our partnership agreement, orchestrating Cleveland Manufacturing's bankruptcy, and coordinating with Apex Analytics to destroy DataVault's business relationships. Marcus's own recordings proved his guilt beyond any reasonable doubt. Jennifer smiled as she reviewed the audio transcripts. Marcus is about to learn that recording conversations works both ways. These tapes will destroy him in court and provide evidence for federal prosecutors. The final hearing would determine not just DataVault's future, but whether Marcus's 5-year conspiracy would finally be exposed and prosecuted. Justice was about to be served, but in a way none of us had anticipated. The federal courthouse in downtown Chicago buzzed with activity as news crews gathered outside Judge Chen's courtroom. Word had leaked about the FBI investigation into Strategic Partnerships LLC, transforming our intellectual property dispute into a high-profile case about corporate espionage and business fraud. Marcus arrived with his legal team looking notably less confident than during previous hearings. His expensive suit couldn't hide the stress lines around his eyes or the way his hands shook while organizing documents. Patricia Wells was conspicuously absent. She'd retained her own criminal defense attorney after being named in the federal investigation. Jennifer Rodriguez had assembled an impressive presentation for the final hearing. Our legal team included forensic accountants, technology experts, and former FBI investigators who'd helped uncover the conspiracy evidence. Everything we'd discovered about Marcus's activities over the past 5 years would be presented to Judge Chen in a comprehensive timeline of fraud and manipulation. But none of us expected what happened when Marcus's own attorney took the microphone. Gerald Hampton was a partner at one of Chicago's most prestigious law firms, with 30 years of experience representing Fortune 500 companies in complex litigation. He'd been defending Marcus since the beginning of our dispute, arguing passionately for his client's intellectual property rights. Now he looked deeply uncomfortable as he addressed Judge Chen. "Your Honor, before presenting our client's position, I must address certain ethical obligations that have come to my attention during case preparation." Jennifer and I exchanged confused glances. Hampton was about to deviate from his prepared remarks. While reviewing discovery materials last night, I discovered audio recordings that my client had not previously disclosed to our legal team. These recordings contain conversations relevant to this case that significantly impact our understanding of the underlying facts. Judge Chen leaned forward, her expression stern. Mr. Hampton, are you saying your client withheld evidence from his own attorneys? Yes, Your Honor. The recordings were stored on encrypted devices that Mr. Westfield claimed contained only personal communications. However, after technical analysis, we found business-related conversations that directly contradict statements my client made during our case preparation. Marcus went pale as Hampton continued. Your Honor, I am ethically obligated to disclose that these recordings contain admissions by my client regarding fraudulent conduct, conspiracy with third parties, and intentional misrepresentation of material facts in this litigation. The courtroom fell silent except for the scratching of court reporters' pens. Marcus leaned toward Hampton, whispering urgently, but his attorney pulled away and continued addressing the court. Specifically, the recordings include conversations between my client and co-conspirators, discussing plans to manipulate the original Next Gen Solutions partnership agreement, coordinate with competing companies to damage DataVault's business relationships and use fraudulent intellectual property claims to extract settlements from former business partners. Judge Chen's voice was ice cold. Mr. Hampton, are you withdrawing from representation of your client? Yes, Your Honor. Given the ethical violations revealed by these recordings, our firm cannot continue representing Mr. Westfield. We are also obligated to report this matter to appropriate authorities for potential criminal investigation. Marcus stood abruptly, his face flushed with panic. Your Honor, I object to this proceeding. Mr. Hampton is violating attorney-client privilege and making unsubstantiated allegations. Mr. Westfield, Judge Chen replied sharply, attorney-client privilege does not protect communications about ongoing fraud or future criminal conduct. Mr. Hampton is following proper ethical procedures. Hampton activated a digital audio system filling the courtroom with Marcus's voice from recordings made during Next Gen Solutions' collapse. The beauty of this structure. Marcus's recorded voice explained to an unidentified co-conspirator is that Chauncey will be personally liable for everything while I walk away clean. The partnership agreement gives me leverage over any future company he builds, so I'll profit from his work without taking any risks. A second recording played Marcus discussing Cleveland Manufacturing Consortium's planned bankruptcy. Uncle Robert confirmed the timing. They'll file for bankruptcy next month, right when NextGen's cash flow hits bottom. Chauncey will be forced to cover all debts personally, and his credit will be destroyed for years. The most damaging recording featured Marcus coordinating with Apex Analytics executives. DataVault is becoming a serious threat to your market position. My intellectual property claims will disrupt their operations for at least 6 months, giving you time to develop competing products and steal their major clients. Judge Chen stopped the playback after 15 minutes of recorded admissions. Mr. Westfield, these recordings demonstrate clear evidence of fraud, conspiracy, and perjury. I am immediately dismissing all intellectual property claims against DataVault Analytics and referring this matter to federal prosecutors for criminal investigation. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, based on the evidence of systematic fraud and manipulation, I am ordering Mr. Westfield to pay full attorney fees and damages to DataVault Analytics. The total amount will be determined after proper financial analysis, but preliminary estimates suggest damages exceeding $2 million. Marcus collapsed into his chair, the weight of his collapsed conspiracy finally hitting him. Jennifer stood to address the court. Your Honor, DataVault Analytics requests immediate injunctive relief preventing Mr. Westfield and his associates from interfering with our business operations, contacting our clients, or making false statements about our company's intellectual property rights. Granted, Judge Chen replied immediately. Mr. Westfield and all associated parties are permanently enjoined from any contact with DataVault Analytics or its business relationships. As court officers escorted Marcus from the courtroom, he turned toward me one final time. Gone was the confident smile and predatory calculation I remembered from our college partnership. In its place was the hollow stare of someone whose carefully constructed schemes had collapsed completely. "This isn't over, Chauncey," he called out as bailiffs led him away. But we both knew it was over. The recordings had destroyed any remaining credibility Marcus might have claimed. Federal prosecutors would use the evidence to pursue criminal charges for wire fraud, racketeering, and commercial espionage. More importantly, DataVault Analytics was finally free from the legal complications that had threatened our existence. Jennifer gathered our documents as the courtroom emptied. "Marcus made a classic criminal mistake," she observed. "He kept evidence of his own crimes, believing he could control how that evidence would be used. In the end, his arrogance destroyed him." Outside the courthouse, I called my mother with the news. "Miho Justice has a way of finding the truth," she said quietly. "Your father always told me that good people who work hard will eventually be protected by the universe." That afternoon, I called an all-hands meeting at DataVault's offices to share the legal victory with our employees. The relief in the room was palpable. Everyone had been worried about their jobs and the company's future. "Marcus thought he could destroy what we built together," I told the team. "Instead, his attacks made us stronger and more determined to succeed." 3 days later, Meridian Industries called to restart acquisition discussions. The final offer was $19.3 million. But this time there was no question about who owned what we'd built together. 6 months after the courthouse victory, I stood in the penthouse conference room of Meridian Industries' Austin headquarters, signing the final documents that would transfer DataVault Analytics for $19.3 million. The acquisition had proceeded smoothly once all intellectual property disputes were resolved, and Meridian's executives were excited about integrating DataVault's predictive algorithms into their enterprise software suite. More satisfying than the financial windfall was the knowledge that justice had prevailed completely. Marcus Westfield was sentenced to 4 years in federal prison for wire fraud, racketeering, and commercial espionage. Strategic Partnerships LLC was dissolved, its assets frozen to pay restitution to victims of the conspiracy. Patricia Wells received 18 months imprisonment for her role in the scheme and was permanently disbarred from practicing forensic accounting. Apex Analytics faced federal prosecution for corporate espionage, resulting in $73 million in fines and the resignation of their entire executive team. Robert Westfield was convicted of securities fraud related to Cleveland Manufacturing Consortium's manipulated bankruptcy and sentenced to 2 years imprisonment plus restitution payments. The FBI investigation revealed that Marcus's conspiracy had victimized 12 other entrepreneurs over 5 years, generating illegal profits exceeding $8 million. Every victim received full restitution from asset forfeitures. Most importantly, federal prosecutors established new legal precedents for prosecuting intellectual property fraud and corporate espionage, making it much harder for future conspirators to manipulate partnership agreements and legal systems for profit. But my personal transformation went far beyond legal victories and financial success. The experience taught me profound lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of building ethical business relationships. Marcus had tried to destroy me because he believed I was too naive and trusting to succeed in competitive markets. Instead, his attacks forced me to develop sophisticated defenses while maintaining my fundamental integrity. I used part of DataVault's acquisition proceeds to establish the Martinez Foundation for Ethical Entrepreneurship, providing legal assistance and business education for young entrepreneurs who couldn't afford proper protection against predatory partnerships. The foundation's mission was ensuring that no other innovator would suffer the betrayals and manipulations I'd experienced. "Miho, you turned your greatest pain into your greatest purpose." Mom observed during the foundation's launch ceremony at Ohio State University. The foundation's first initiative was creating standardized partnership agreement templates that protected all parties fairly while preventing the legal manipulation Marcus had employed. We worked with law schools across the country to educate future attorneys about recognizing and preventing partnership fraud. Our second program provided free forensic accounting services for entrepreneurs facing suspicious intellectual property claims. Too many innovators accepted fraudulent demands because they couldn't afford proper legal defense. The Martinez Foundation ensured that financial resources wouldn't determine legal outcomes. Most personally meaningful was our mentorship program connecting young entrepreneurs with experienced business leaders who could provide guidance about partnership decisions, equity structures, and risk management. I personally mentored 12 entrepreneurs during the foundation's first year, helping them avoid the mistakes that had nearly destroyed my career. One mentee, a brilliant young woman named Sarah Kim, developing renewable energy software, reminded me of my younger self. Technically gifted but vulnerable to manipulation by more experienced partners. When her co-founder tried to replicate Marcus's debt transfer scheme, the Martinez Foundation's legal team intervened immediately, protecting Sarah's interests and exposing her partner's fraudulent conduct. "You saved my company and my future," Sarah told me after her legal victory. "Without the foundation's help, I would have lost everything to someone I trusted." These success stories validated my decision to transform personal trauma into systematic prevention of entrepreneurial exploitation. My mother moved to a beautiful home in Coronado, California, where she could walk on the beach every morning and volunteer at local schools. At 60, she was healthier and happier than I'd seen her since Dad's death, finally free from financial stress and proud of her son's accomplishments. "Your father would be amazed by what you've built," she said during one of our weekly phone calls. "Not just the business success, but the way you've helped so many other people avoid the pain you experienced." I relocated to Austin to work with Meridian Industries during DataVault's integration, but maintained close connections with Chicago's entrepreneurship community. Many of the employees I'd hired chose to remain with Meridian, excited about applying our technology at global scale. Others joined startup companies carrying DataVault's culture of innovation and integrity to new ventures. Jennifer Rodriguez became the Martinez Foundation's chief legal advisor, developing educational programs about partnership law and intellectual property protection. Tom Bradley established a new private investigation firm specializing in corporate fraud prevention, helping entrepreneurs identify potential threats before they could cause damage. Even Gerald Hampton, Marcus's former attorney, contacted me to apologize for his initial representation of the conspiracy. He genuinely believed his client's claims about intellectual property theft, only discovering the truth when ethical obligations forced him to examine evidence more carefully. "Your case changed how our firm evaluates intellectual property disputes," Gerald told me. "We now conduct independent forensic analysis before accepting any partnership-related claims, specifically to avoid representing fraudulent schemes like Marcus's conspiracy." The legal precedents established by our case were already preventing similar frauds across the technology industry. But perhaps the most satisfying outcome was the transformation of my relationship with business partnerships and trust. Marcus had tried to teach me that successful entrepreneurs must be suspicious, manipulative, and willing to sacrifice relationships for profit. Instead, I learned that sustainable success requires authentic collaboration, transparent communication, and shared commitment to ethical conduct. DataVault's acquisition by Meridian Industries exemplified healthy business relationships. Both companies benefited from the transaction, employees were treated fairly, and clients received improved services. No one was manipulated, betrayed, or exploited. This became the model for all my future business activities. 2 years after the acquisition, I launched a new venture capital firm focused exclusively on supporting entrepreneurs who demonstrated both innovative technology and strong ethical foundations. The Martinez Venture Group invested in companies solving meaningful problems while maintaining high standards for partnership agreements, employee treatment, and client relationships. Our portfolio included renewable energy startups, educational technology companies, and healthcare innovation firms, all led by entrepreneurs who shared our values of integrity and social responsibility. You proved that ethical benchable business practices generate better long-term results than manipulation and exploitation, observed one of our portfolio company founders. Your success story inspired me to build my company the right way from the beginning. On the 5th anniversary of DataVault's founding, I returned to Cleveland to speak at Lincoln Elementary School, where Mom had taught 4th grade for 28 years. Standing in front of 90 curious 9-year-olds, I shared the most important lesson my journey had taught me. Bad people will try to take advantage of your kindness and trust, I told them. But don't let that make you suspicious of everyone. Instead, learn to protect yourself while remaining open to genuine friendship and partnership. The goal isn't to become hard and cynical, it's to become wise and strong. After the presentation, several students approached with questions about starting businesses and pursuing technology careers. Their enthusiasm reminded me why the Martinez Foundation's educational programs were so important. Today, as I write this story, Marcus Westfield is serving his federal prison sentence, while I continue building businesses and supporting other entrepreneurs. The $453,000 in debt he saddled me with ultimately led to creating value exceeding $50 million through DataVault's success, the Martinez Foundation's impact, and my venture capital firm's portfolio growth. Marcus thought he was teaching me a lesson about the ruthless nature of business competition. Instead, he taught me that resilience, integrity, and determination will always triumph over manipulation and exploitation. His betrayal forced me to develop skills and wisdom I never would have gained from easy success. The pain he caused motivated me to help dozens of other entrepreneurs avoid similar exploitation. His conspiracy's exposure established legal precedents, protecting future innovators from partnership fraud. In the end, Marcus's attempt to destroy my life created opportunities for far greater success and more meaningful impact than I could have achieved without experiencing that adversity. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing you'll ever accomplish. The acquisition offer that started this entire story, $19.3 million for a company I built from nothing, proved that honest work ethical conduct and genuine innovation will always create more lasting value than schemes, manipulation, and exploitation. Marcus learned that lesson the hard way from a federal prison cell. I learned it by building something worth protecting. Have you ever had someone try to take credit for your hard work, or faced a situation where a former partner or friend betrayed your trust? How did you handle it? And what would you do differently if faced with a similar challenge? Today, I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button to help others find it. Subscribe to hear more stories about overcoming adversity and building success through ethical means. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing about resilience in the face of betrayal, please share this story with them. Thank you for joining me on this journey from betrayal to triumph. Remember that your setbacks don't define your future. Your response to those setbacks does. Keep building, keep growing, and never let others' failures of character diminish your own integrity. Until next time, stay strong and keep moving forward.